Welcome everybody to episode 16 of the First Strike Podcast. I am your host and I go by the Marathon Don. And on this week's episode, we're recapping Ian Garry's tactical, strategic, and efficient win versus Carlos Prates. And that's exactly where we're going to start, guys. You know, I see a lot of folks giving Ian Garry a little bit of heat online, and they're talking about like, hey, you know what? He was too risk adverse. He was too strategic. He was too patient. And I see a lot of folks saying that he almost got finished in the 5th round. So I'm here to give you the real. I'm here to give you the truth. I'm here to give you the best analysis in combat sports. And that's why I go by the Marathon Don. So let's get right into it. In the main event, Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates, known as a knockout artist. So I was very curious to see how Ian Garry was going to approach the fight. And he did exactly what I expected him to do. Those fantastic leg kicks slowed down Carlos Prates. It was a strategic movement around the cage that allowed him to, in my opinion, coast to a victory. The reality was that Ian Garry continued to move his feet, and because that, Carlos couldn't plant his feet and generate that power that he typically does to knock out his opponents. And that's basically it. Ian Garry displayed a high level IQ that I haven't seen since the likes of GSP, because what happens is he is adapting and strategically dissecting his opponents prior to the fight, developing strategies to counter his opponent's strength, and then implementing them in the fight. Like there was one particular moment where they was close to the cage, and then Ian Garry, he went for the takedown, and even though Carlos stuffed it, phenomenal takedown defense. You're talking about a guy that's known for first round finishes, and Ian Garry, not only did he make it out of the first round, the second round, the third round, like he won all the rounds except the 5th round. So I feel like he had a fantastic strategy, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of when Ian Garry fought Michael Venom Page. In that particular fight, we saw a side of Ian Garry that we didn't see before, where he implemented a lot of his grappling arsenal. And that's what I love about him. I feel like he's really mixing well all the different pieces of MMA, and it's proven to be successful. He's only lost to one person who's highly ranked in the division, possibly the dark horse that's the number one contender, and it was a very competitive fight. So I do think that Carlos Prates in the 5th round, he did catch him. I give him that much, but it was too little, too late. And Ian Garry, what a great victory over a surging star. And I think when you think about Carlos Prates, you think about a knockout artist, a Brazilian killer, and also a nerd, right? Someone that's getting a lot of fame online, and they have a lot of cool momentum with the group that they are developing. But at the same time, Ian Garry just took that all away. And I think the next fight for Ian Garry, I would like to see him fight Sean Brady. I think Sean Brady, coming off a dominant victory against Leon Edwards, I think that's the fight to make. Both of these guys are at least one fight away from the championship title fight. So it's like, why not? Why not make it a real number one contender fight? Sean Brady coming off the finish of Leon Edwards. Ian Garry's just surpassing a knockout artist. I think it's a perfect fight to make. I don't think we should wait much. I think it should be the next fight, because Bilal Muhammad, he has his hands full with JDM. You know, we still have Shamkov in just waiting on the sidelines. And he's another killer. So if you think about the championship picture at 170, I think it's pretty packed for the next 12 months. So why not have Sean Brady versus Ian Garry? And I would love to see what kind of strategy Ian Garry implements in that fight. We're talking about a person that's mixing up all his weapons and all his tools very well. And it's paying off so many dividends in the UFC fight. Like if he's facing a striker, he's not afraid to grapple. If he's facing a grappler, he's not afraid to strike. And if he's facing a well-diverse mixed martial artist, he's not afraid to mix it up and utilize his strength while exploiting your weaknesses. So I'm very impressed, very excited for that particular win for him, and I can't wait to see where he goes next. I think the next fight 100% should be Ian Garry versus Sean Brady. I know there was a little bit of kind of like a call out with Wonderboy, with Carlos Prates, talking about that they would have a striking clinic, and I think that'll be a great fight. I think Carlos Prates after this, why not fight another striker that he can go ahead and excel in? So, big shout out to Ian Machado Garry. Very entertaining main event. and I was a big fan. So can't wait to see what happens next. I'm rooting for Sean Brady in that particular fight. Well, not rooting for Sean Brady, but I'm rooting for him to fight Sean Brady next. So big shout out to Ian Garry on behalf of the First Strike podcast. Moving on to the co-main event, Anthony Smith. I don't know why this man is still fighting. He gets finished again. Like, we're talking about somebody that has almost 20 losses. I actually thought he retired last time he got finished. And I still have vivid memories of Teixeira literally shoving his teeth in his mouth. So he gets finished. A lot of folks are saying it's a terrible stoppage. I just feel like Anthony Smith, he has become a punching bag for a long time. I don't have any problem with the stoppage. I think it was just, it's a great win for Min Yang, a good highlight reel finish, and something that, like, even though, few folks are saying it was late stoppage, I don't think so. I feel like unless you're knocked out, I think that, it's one of those things where if you're still trying to protect himself and you're not completely knocked out, I feel like why not let him go? Especially if you're talking about a veteran. This is not his UFC fight debut. You're talking about someone that has double-digit losses. So Anthony Smith, when I look at his career, he's finally retiring. I don't see any big moments. Like, this is a guy that was best known for not taking a knee or not taking the easy way out in a fight against John Jones, where he was completely dominated, got kneed in the head, and didn't take the easy victory. But other than that, he's known as an analyst. He's a really good analyst. I love his mindset, very strategic. But as a fighter, I do feel like he was a punching bag. But good luck with your retirement, man. I think that this is a tough sport, and that's the type of sport that's going to force you to retire unless you willingly do so ahead of time. Other than that, notable moments, Michael Pereira, he lost by unanimous decision. A lot of folks are saying that he looked very dull. He lost versus Magomedov. And, Machado Pereira, I think he's a very exciting fighter. And I think that when I think about him, I think he's someone that is still working to try to put things together. He reminds me a little bit of Johnny Walker, where when Johnny Walker first started, he was a fantastic, flashy knockout artist. Then he quickly got humbled, and they had to change up his style a little bit to kind of like compensate for all that flashiness that may or may not be effective. So it's like the flashy knockouts can only take you so far. So what happens when you meet someone well-rounded that you're not putting away in the first round? And I think Michel Pereira, he kind of did adapt his style a little bit to be a little bit more strategic, manage his cardio better. And I think that in this fight, he just fought someone that was more well-rounded, better grappling, and was able to stifle him at every point. I would love to see him come back. I think middleweight is a great division for him. Him versus MVP will be such a fantastic fight at middleweight, or maybe versus the Bullet. He also has some big fights that could happen at 170. So I think either way they slice it, he definitely has a future in the UFC. All right. So, for me, that basically wraps it up for that fight card, the Kansas City fight card. I didn't really see anything else that was notable. One of the things that was notable that came out was a fight announcement during the week, a little bit later in the week, that came out by Dana White announcing Max Holloway versus Dustin Porier 3 for the BMF belt. And I think it's, when you think about Dustin Porier, he's retiring on his terms. I commend him for that. It's the right thing to do. And I think that it's just the wrong opponent. Like, I get it that he wants a legacy fight, and why not against Max Holloway? But the reality is that, Max Holloway was knocked out by Topuria in his last fight. Like, how is he still the BMF? Like, I don't really understand that concept, because if you get knocked out, it's almost like Masvidal. When Masvidal was a BMF and he got knocked out by Usman, you don't see him fighting for the BMF again. Like, technically, Usman should be the BMF. Like, he just knocked him out. So I don't understand how Holloway, just got finished, is going to fight for the BMF belt. And I get it for Poirier. He wants a legendary fighter, like a legacy fight as the main, as for his retirement fight. But I just feel like, bro, you beat him twice already. Finished him once, dominated Max Holloway a second time. Like, I think there could have been better matchups. Like, why not fight Paddy Pimilton and pass the torch? Someone that just completely dominated Michael Chandler, who you went to war with. I think, like, I get it. He feels like Paddy Pimilton hasn't done enough. But on your way out, like, there's no shame in losing to a top 10, top 5 contender. I'd rather lose to Paddy Pimilton at this point in his career, where he's surging, than against Max Holloway, who just got knocked out against Poirier. Like, I don't understand how that works. To me, that fight makes no sense. I'm still gonna tune in, but I'm not as excited as I would be if it was versus a Paddy Pimilton or even someone else. Maybe like a fresh legacy fight against anybody else, man. Like I feel like we saw that twice already. It wasn't that competitive. I don't need to see it again. I would have preferred a new opponent for Dustin Porier, like a Paddy Pimilton. But hey, it is what it is. No matter what, I'm still tuning in. I think it's a fantastic fight overall. It's just something about Max Holloway's last fight that has me losing interest in that particular matchup. Besides that, I'd definitely be remiss if I don't touch on a little bit of boxing and we don't talk about the Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn. I mean, what a spectacle. That was such a fantastic spectacle that took place. Big shout out to Chris Eubank earning the decision the hard way. They got in there. I saw the weigh-ins. I kind of felt like he might have been a little weight drained. Like he looked really thin, and then he came in over the limit and got penalized $500,000. I believe he came in at 160, and so he came in a little bit overweight. I think the fight was at 160, but he weighed in like at 160.5. So the reality is that he looked weight drained. He looked like he had a tough time making weight. So I felt like that was going to impact him. But man, that jab was crisp as ever, and he gave Conor Benn a really solid loss on his record. Like it was a really great fight, but it just looked like his gas tank was on another level. It actually looked like Conor Benn was gassing out, and he just kept getting him against the ropes towards the end of the fight. Early on, he was just working that jab. I had a clean sweep on the cards. I felt like Chris Eubank came out and showed out. And I think overall it was just a spectacle of an event out there in the UK. So what a fight! And I love all the presentation with the promotion, the co-promotion with Fatal Fury. I think it's just a really, really cool concept. And I love how boxing continued to have, like, they invest in a lot of the marketing. So all the events are larger than life. Like I wish the UFC would implement a little bit of that, like, big theatric entrances, fireworks and stuff like that, because these are big moments in time that these fighters may never get back. So it's like, if you're fighting for a championship belt or you're fighting against a big rival, why not have a larger than life entrance, only for the high level marquee main event style matchups. Everything else could remain the same. But when I see amazing packed stadium for the boxing fights and these elaborate entrances, I do kind of wish that the UFC did that more often. They did it before with Adesanya, Conor McGregor, but seeing Chris Eubank come out and Conor Benn, the entrances and the show they put on, I feel like it adds so much more to the show. So yeah, I think when we look back at this past weekend, I think those were the big notable moments. We're talking about UFC Kansas. We talked about the Dustin Poirier Max Holloway fight and touched a little bit on boxing. And coming up this week, we do have a triple header in Times Square, which I'm super excited about because we have Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez on the first all on one card for the first time ever. So I can't wait to cover that fight and watch. Stay tuned this week for my pick of the weeks for that card and my locks for the week. So I'll definitely be dropping some prediction videos touching on those fights coming soon. And other than that, that wraps it up for this episode of First Strike Podcast. As always, I'm your host. I go by the Marathon Don. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am